Chop chop, another freaky stuff, eh? So, let's begin. Hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night if you're about to sleep. Hi, and welcome to another segment of Freaky Filipino Friday with Phil. Rar, where freaky things happen in the Philippines, and I talk about it because we're still having the pandemic, so I'm just here sitting down. Thank you guys for voting on our next topic for this week, which I did not prepare ahead again, but it is what it is. I know some of you are like OMG Phil, we're supposed to talk about the Filipino martial arts this week. Well, you chose this, so you brought this to yourself. So today we're gonna talk about one of the most infamous cases in the Philippines, the case of Lucila Lalu, which is the first Chop Chop lady. Yeah, you heard it right, the first Chop Chop lady. Meaning it's not the only one. Well, actually, the second Chop Chop lady, the Elsa Castillo case, was the one that really made everyone got scared to come home late at night in the 90s. They even made two movies out of it because the case was well known. And it defined the term Chop Chop lady. And yeah, I remember that in the 90s, like, don't go out at night because you might end up being like the Chop Chop lady. If you don't know what Chop Chop means, it's a Filipinized word for chop because Filipinos like to make double names. For example, the name John becomes Junjun, and chop chop is not food, okay? Yeah, it sounds like a cuisine. Pork chop, lamb chops, chop suey. Not funny. So anyway, the case of Lucila Lalu was even linked to the case of Elizabeth Short, aka the Black Dahlia in Los Angeles, California. So we will tackle that later, okay? So let's begin. So Lucila Tolentino Lalu was born and raised in Candaba, Pampanga. So this is a provincial area and nothing much happens in those areas. And Lucila was an ambitious woman, and she wanted to get out of her provincial lifestyle. She wanted to see more of big buildings, cars, instead of, banana trees and carabaos. Around 1957, she left her home and started a new life in the city of Manila. She then landed a job in a small bar as a waitress. Now, Lucila was a smart chick. She was good with money. In 1967, she was able to put up not just one but two business establishments. One is Lucy's House of Beauty, which is a salon in Mayhalige Street. The other is Pagoda, which is a resto bar slash nightclub that was found in Rizal Avenue, Santa Cruz, Manila. And she did all of that just by being a waitress. Like, wow, time to rethink my career. Now, during this time, Lucila met a handsome young man who is a police officer. His name was Anjano de Vera. Lucila was blown away by this guy. You know, guys with uniforms, they just have this factor. So the two fell in love, but there was a catch, like any other love story. Apparently, Anjano was still married. But nevertheless, Lucila wanted the D. Soon after, they began living together under a common law marriage. In other words, live-in partners. And then they were blessed with a child. Lucila was like the OG of a working woman back then. She was not just handling two businesses, but also being a mother at the same time. And she was still 28 years old. 28! Meanwhile, I'm just sitting here in front of a microphone. Well, she has two businesses, a hunky hubby, and a child. So she's happy and they all live happily ever after, right? Not in this reality. In the summer of 1967, Lucila disappeared. Many thought that she was just busy because, she has two businesses, right? Working woman. But word also came out that she could have been with her secret lovers. Yes, lovers with an S. She wasn't just contented with the policeman's D. She wanted more Ds. On May 26, 1967, police reported body parts of a woman was found. They found a pair of legs cleanly cut into 4 pieces. They were wrapped with newspapers dated May 14th. The first person to have discovered this was a garbage collector. Now, he was just doing his thing as a garbage collector, collecting garbage. Trash, meat. According to him, the parts were still cold as if it was just brought out from the freezer, and it was found in Malabon Street where Lucila's bar was nearby. He also added that the toes were well pedicured and assumed that these were from a wealthy person. Now, the next day, the torso with arms were found in EDSA, and it was near the Guadalupe Bridge. and the parts again were wrapped in newspapers but dated May 23. Since they had the body with the arms, they were able to identify the body that it was from Lucila through her fingerprints, because when she came to Manila, she applied for police clearance and fingerprints were needed for that. The really sad part for this case is that her head was never found, and also upon autopsy, they found out that she was pregnant. Now it's just disturbing, like double kill for this one. Well, according to homicide investigators, they assume that the killer could be someone in the medical field or someone who has sufficient knowledge of the human anatomy. So they were expertly cut, so take note of this because we're gonna come back to this. But the authorities considered that the killer might be a butcher because the body parts were frozen. Someone with a huge freezer or a truck was someone to look out for, so they rounded up the suspects. Top of the list were the lovers with an S. First was Florente Relos, a 19-year-old waiter from her resto bar and whom she supported financially and physically. I guess she wanted her fish fresh. #sugar mame. However, Florente had a good alibi. According to him, he was out with his friends drinking around the time of murder, so he was released. But my question is, how did he know when the crime was done? And we only know about the dates when Lucila disappeared and also the newspaper dates. Suspicious. But he added that he had no motive to kill Lucila because she was the provider and lover. They even rented out a love nest in Cubao from time to time. Lucila girl. But then the cashier in Pagoda said that Lucila broke up with Florente a long time ago. He also told Florente and his friends that Lucila may be at the beauty parlor if they wanted to see her. Some witnesses even said that they saw her being dragged by Florente and his friends, going into a taxi in front of the parlor. But this was never verified, which was dumb because that was a relevant, information. Philippines. The second suspect was Anjano, Lucila's common husband for 7 years. A lot of people knew that they had already problems with their relationship. Their 6-year-old child had been living with Lucila's mother-in-law in Caloocan, and also Anjano has this anger management. He was prone to fits of anger and jealousy, and even used his service gun in the business establishments of Lucila, and he did this 3 times. And this all happened a month before Lucila disappeared. Well, for me, maybe Anjano knew something was fishy about Lucila's extracurricular activities, or Anjano's temper caused Lucila to try new flavors. I don't know, but they were having problems. The night of her disappearance, Anjano claimed to have had dinner with her in a beauty parlor at around 6:30 p.m., but he soon left though. Some witnesses, including Lucila's relatives, said that around that time Anjano left, they even saw her in the salon sleeping. Now this goes against Florente's statement that he and Lucila had met around 7:30 the same night in another cocktail lounge on Rizal Avenue. Suspicious. The third suspect, yet again, another lover of Lucila. Like, I get it why Anjano was kind of a bit furious and, jealous and gets wild about it. Lucila has been busy. Well, the third lover, I couldn't find his name, but the only info I found was that he was an executive of a printing firm. He was only suspected because of the cardboard material used in wrapping the newsprints, and that was found under the torso of Lucila. The mystery man seemed to have an alibi, and the angle wasn't explored any further. The last suspect was a 28-year-old dental student, Jose Luis Santiago. Jose Luis was again a lover of Lucila. I mean, girl, what is your secret? These boys were under your spell or some sort. Now, Jose was a boarder in one of the rooms in Lucila's beauty parlor. It was June 15, 1967 when news broke out that a handsome young man, son of a retired PC colonel, married and a father of 5, confessed his handwritten statement that he experienced a mental blackout, but remembered strangling Lucila to death. According to his statement, Lucila tried to seduce him, but Jose refused. No, you are a married woman and I am an aspiring dentist who have a prestigious family and need to maintain my honor. He didn't really said that, but I'm assuming he said that. But Lucila didn't want no for an answer. If you don't taste my apple pie, I'm gonna make a scandal. Again, I'm assuming that was what she said. Maybe out of fear or anger, Jose lost his senses and strangled Lucila to death. He even told a detailed description on how he disposed the body. He said he first disposed the head in Diliman, Quezon City. Then he carried the other body parts with paper bags and boxes while riding taxicabs and jeepneys. Police later found out traces of dried blood underneath Jose's bed where he said he kept the body before disposing of it. But the head was never mentioned again, which is kinda weird because he gave a detailed report about the other body parts. Now, this is the crazy part, okay, so listen up. 3 days later, Jose took back all of his statements, claiming that he was innocent. He said that he wasn't the murderer, but simply the unwilling witness. He then accused 3 men of the murder. While the murder did happen in Jose's room, Jose was a hostage while a man was pointing a gun to him, while the other 2 were killing Lucila. A 4th man then appeared and planted the evidence of the blood in his room. Over the next few days, he allegedly received notes reminding him to keep silent. Police believe that he was really the murderer because all of the evidences were pointing to him, especially since they found a hammer with bloodstains in the mezzanine, I don't know how to pronounce mezzanine, yeah, whatever, as well as the knife and razors in the initial testimony. They believe Jose was just simply following the orders from the lawyer's suggestions to retract his statements, plus his father is a colonel. I think this was a mean to remove a scandal in the family. You know the Mulan thing, dishonor to your family, dishonor to your cow, that kind of stuff. While Jose was detained in the NBI, they received bomb threats stating to release the suspect. And because of that, he was released and some say he moved out of the Philippines, which is a common thing with rich criminals in the Philippines. The police gave up this case because there were no new leads about this. Still, some people continue to speculate about this case. In 2003, a former Los Angeles police detective named Steve Hodel published a book, Black Dahlia Avenger: The True Story, about a similar case that took place in the US in 1947, the Black Dahlia case. The Elizabeth Short case was similar to Lucila. Well, the case also led to a dead end. The murder of Elizabeth Short was also disturbing. While she was found naked and her body was severely mutilated from her waist, and her body was drained out of blood, completely dry. Also, the medical examiners noticed that the body was completely washed. And be warned, don't look at the pictures in Google if you just had eaten your lunch or dinner, okay? Just come prepared. Now, this case produced over 150 suspects, but one of the suspects that a lot of people were pointing at was the American physician George Hill Hodel Jr., who is the father of Steve Hodel. Now, this man was cray-cray. He had a lot of controversies and cases from rape to murder. Even his daughter accused him of rape also. That's how effed up was he. There were also links from him to different murders such as the Lipstick Killer and the Zodiac Killer. And this man was constantly on the run within America. But whenever he was in a specific place, there were some crazy stuff happening. And it involves deaths and mutilation. But then he fled to the Philippines and stayed within 1950 to 1990. And Steve Hodel strongly believed that his father murdered Lucila. The fact that he was in Manila during the time Lucila's murder happened. But there were some inaccuracies in his book. However, that Lucila's torso was found along Zodiac Street in Makati. Remember when the report stated it was found along EDSA, okay, near Guadalupe. Well, some followers of the mystery accept his explanation for Lucila's murder, but the case officially remains open. Yeah, crazy, right? Well, that was a hell of a topic. Now, what's scary about this case is that her head was never found. Like, Never, or any clues or whatsoever, and this case is still open. And that was around 1967, right? And we are in 2021. Well, for me, guys, the strongest suspects are Jose Luis Santiago and Dr. Hodel. Both are in the medical background, and of course, it involves cutting, right? Well, how about the dentist? Of course, it involves cutting, okay? Now, mouth surgeries, removal of their tooth, or something like that. You can also say Florente was also like a strong suspect, because his alibi was not as strong, okay? But basing on evidence, everything was pointing to Luis, the dentist. It's too bad that he retracted his statements, and because he had like detailed statements. Well, what can we do? So that was all, guys. So don't forget to like and subscribe. And you can message me for suggestions on topics. Just go to my Instagram, Filar okay? So stay safe, eat healthy, be freaky as always, and see you soon, okay? Oh yeah, I have to show off my lights, hit the party.